it louder, up and up and up. We're gonna get the music rocking, gonna get the bodies jumping, wanna get the party pumping round here. We're gonna get the walls shaking with the noise we will be making, gonna get the party pumping round here. Saying hey, hey, cheers, we fear no beer. To all my brothers, sisters, and here we say hey, hey, cheers.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome to episode 7, 2.0 of the Smoke Show. I'm your host, Jason Massico, better known as Dark Guy. My co-host, Ryan Drury. What a beauty. Happy to have you back, buddy. What a week it was in sports.
It was fantastic. I know that Bills fans, Bills Mafia are excited. Some tables were definitely broken on Saturday night, which is exciting, hopefully at a safe distance from everybody. Yeah, it's fantastic, man. A lot of stuff going on. There's so much to cover. We've got a great guest on today as well. Let's start with the Bills, though. I mean, I thought that they handled a tough Baltimore team really, really well. They barely ran the ball. Josh Allen was unbelievable. I think that we have watched him morph into a superstar quarterback in a season and a half here. There were doubts with him last year. People were freaking out after that playoff game that he lost. He has silenced the doubters. Bills Mafia is feeling good, and I know you're a big part of that.
Well, I'm absolutely jacked. I was a little nervous through the first half of that football game. It was some sloppy football out there. As much as, we've hyped Josh Allen on the show, and he delivered in the end, proving all the doubters wrong once again. I started to see in the first half of that football game, some of the throws he was making, you could see some of that nervousness creeping back into his game a little bit, where he started overthrowing guys by 10, 15 yards, but thankfully, in the end, he settled down. The Bills' defense was absolutely phenomenal in limiting Baltimore and forcing that throw, forcing Lamar to make throws that weren't there, forced him into some bad decisions. There was a big pick six that basically changed the game. And, I'm pretty sure when Lamar's watching that footage, he's going to want that throw back because, you could be an armchair GM from the 500 level to see that he shouldn't have thrown that ball. But that's part and parcel to the way the Bills defense were pressuring him and playing him. And in the end, the Bills won, and we're looking forward to a massive AFC championship matchup with KC.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road. And, of course, the big story in sports, really, especially in the NFL, is Patrick Mahomes and his health, concussed in that game that they won against Cleveland. I think ultimately he will play. I don't think he should play if he is in bad enough shape. I hate it when teams force athletes. Maybe force is the wrong word, but, in some instances, let athletes play when they are clearly not ready. Concussions are no joke. I would like to see him play if he's healthy enough. And I think for you and all Bills Mafia, I think generally, there's an easier road available there if he doesn't play, because I don't think Chad Henne is the guy that you want carrying the rock for you if you're a Kansas City fan. But I think you would rather go the route of beating the best, the defending champs. It would look real, real good on Bills Mafia and Josh Allen's resume if they beat Patrick Mahomes under center for Kansas City.
Yeah, I don't want to see any asterisks. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes and his health are the number one priority here. So obviously, we want him to be healthy and not putting his health at risk just to play in that football game. But I do not want anybody to have the excuse that Mahomes wasn't there, and that's the only reason the Bills won. Because, quite frankly, the way I see it, Buffalo's winning that game, Mahomes are not. That's the way I see it. Nobody believed they would get this far. Nobody thought they were going to beat. Well, I thought most of the experts were saying, Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, former MVP. In the end, the Bills are the real deal, and I don't want any excuses when they're in the Super Bowl. And I stand by my prediction against the Tampa Bay Bucs.
Yeah, and honestly, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers, and nice bit of video of him and Drew Brees hanging out after the game and everything. Classy stuff. I know a lot of people hate Tom Brady, but He's a pretty character guy, and sad to see Drew Brees go out in that way. I hope he does retire also for health reasons. He broke like 7 ribs this year. He's an all-time great, Hall of Fame, first ballot. I hope that he has a long, healthy life post-football. He was a lot of fun to watch. In terms of the Bills, though, yeah, I still think they can beat KC. I think their defense is better than Kansas City's. Really, it just comes down to how much you can't take away Patrick Mahomes in a game. He's just too dynamic. He is a better thrower than Lamar Jackson, who I still think is the real deal. People in Baltimore are freaking out. He can't win the big game. He's like 3 years into his career. Let's calm down. Get him a better right side of that O-line. Get him somebody to throw to. Hollywood Brown, I don't know about that. And yeah, I still think he's the real deal. But in terms of this game, I still think Buffalo has the weapons and the overall depth to get over Kansas City. They just need to limit Patrick Mahomes' time to make those big plays. And when they get through and break through the offensive line, which they will, they'll have opportunities to pressure him. They got to make sure they get him on that first tackle opportunity, because we've seen it too many times with the sidearm throws and the no-look throws. If you give Patrick Mahomes a second chance to get away from a tackle and give him that extra 3 or 4 seconds, it is damage time. That's when he throws the 40-yard dart. That's when he makes a great running play. You got to get him that first opportunity. I think overall, I think the Bills are going to win this game. I think they win 28-24. It's going to be close, but I like Buffalo to go to the Super Bowl. How about that?
Wow, you just like gained some brownie points here with me, buddy.
I believe in the Bills, man, and I'm a Patriots fan. I believe in the Bills. I hope they do it for you. I really do.
I appreciate that. And I do have to pat myself on the back and pump my tires a little bit. I was one of the few people out there that did have Tampa Bay to beat New Orleans on the weekend. And like I said, what I came down to me for was, New Orleans defense isn't overly impressive, in my opinion. And you bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs. So, even though I say when Buffalo meets up with him in the Super Bowl, it's all she wrote for him. But I had a feeling that Tampa was gonna go through New Orleans, and I truly believe, even with all the weapons that Green Bay possesses, they've got a strong run game. Obviously, they got Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I just think Tampa's going to find a way to pull that win out and get through them as well.
They just might, and again, it's the Tom Brady factor, and I love, with some of these, more dynamic quarterbacks that have come into the league the last decade plus that can run and do all sorts of great things that, Tom athletically just can't. That there are people that are like, Tom Brady is the least talented quarterback ever, and blah, blah, blah. He is the greatest field general of all time, and you cannot take away 6 rings. I'm not going to, do a big Tom Brady party here. I'm saying there is a chance. I don't think they will beat Green Bay. Now, let's remember, they slapped Green Bay around in Tampa this year. I think Aaron Rodgers is a guy that had a chip on his shoulder similar to Tom Brady in a way. Brady was a 6th-round pick. But Rodgers was supposed to be a big-time, surefire top 10 pick his draft year. He drops all the way to 24. Then Green Bay sits him for a few years behind Favre. He kind of learns the ropes. Not a bad guy to learn from. And finally puts him in. Then they draft the quarterback in last year's draft. And that really ticked him off. You read all the stories about how people in his inner circle were like, he was not very happy. And I think that he has a similar chip on his shoulder. He's going to remember that loss to Tampa. He knows all about who Tom Brady is. They're 2 of the greatest of all time. I think that Green Bay will win. And personally, I would rather see Green Bay Buffalo. But if it's Bucks Buffalo, that storyline's so juicy too, because Tom Brady dominated the Bills for 20 years. And it would be kind of cool to see them win, even though I would have to, in my heart, cheer for Tommy, because he gave me so much,
And there goes the brownie points.
Well, I'm sorry. And Gronk, too. Let's not forget about Gronk. He gave me a lot of happy memories as well. So either way, the matchups are going to be great. Even if Kansas City wins, which I I hope for you they don't. Either way, we're going to get a great quarterback matchup. It's going to be two great offenses in the Super Bowl, and it's going to be a show.
Well, I look forward to next week when I can sit here and tell you how right I was again. But as much as I'm a huge Bills fan, what a week, or just shy of a week, 6 days. Tonight's day 6 of the NHL season. No shortage of storylines at all. Before we dive into that, I just want to give everybody the quick heads up and thank our sponsor, bestseatinthehouse.ca. You can go over to any of my social media and see the beautiful chair, the dark eye chair they did up for me. Later on in the show, we're going to be announcing some details of our Best Seat in the House giveaway. We are going to be giving away one of those beautiful chairs, so make sure you're following at fans_best_seats on Twitter and at bestseat.ca on Instagram for all those details. We will announce it on the show, but you're going to be wanting to follow in those accounts as well. Getting into hockey, I'm absolutely stoked to be watching the Leafs in an all-Canadian division. This hockey has been absolutely everything we said it was going to be 2 weeks ago on this show. What entertainment, what you see the rivalries building already after, just 1 or 2 games against a couple Canadian opponents, and it's just been fantastic to watch.
It's been so much fun. It's been lights out good hockey. There have been, lots of sloppy games, but it's fun to watch all the goals. And it's also fun for me because, we've talked about this numerous times, Dark Guy. Like, the Leafs overall, pretty good start. Stinky game against Ottawa on, what was that, Saturday night? Or Friday night, I believe. They were not very good, but they turned it around. Quality game the other night against the Winnipeg Jets, which got chippy at the end there. I love to see that. The rivalry, the hatred there, it's brewing. But like I said, I have a bit of a backseat to the division because I don't cheer for a Canadian team. I don't cheer for the Leafs. And so I kind of always have an outside perspective, I guess, where my fandom level just isn't there. I enjoy watching the teams. It's so fun to watch people melting down right now in Edmonton and Vancouver and to a lesser degree sometimes Toronto. Like, people in Edmonton right now are losing their minds, and rightfully so, as we are joined now by a great special guest. We're going to dig into all this and more with him. Mr. Steve Dangle Glynn joins us. How are you, buddy?
Excellent. How about you boys?
We're great, my friend.
Yeah, that was fresh. Pretty good timing. Speaking of fandom and whatnot, Steve,
Steve fan,
absolute beautician, if there was ever a true definition of it. We've got the host of LFR, sports analyst on Sportsnet, author, leading extraordinaire, and most recently, proud father. So welcome to the show, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. That's why I was a couple minutes late. I was giving the wee one a bath and reading him a bedtime story, and now he's asleep. And by that, I mean he's very upset about being in his crib, but he will soon be asleep.
Fingers crossed.
So happy for you to see the baby in your life, and congratulations to you and Sarah. Absolutely amazing. I have to ask you, has Leo affected your fandom at all as far as when that baby's sleeping, or he just laid down, are you still yelling in the basement there, or what?
No, it was good that we got an overtime game in game 1 because that was a good tester, right?
Yeah.
So I was it was a lot of gritted teeth. Yeah! I got to be 2 floors down. I got to be in the basement. I'm banished to the basement permanently for Leaf games. But it's good. It's good. I'm looking forward to. I know everyone thinks I'm going to force being a Leaf fan on him, but I look at my father-in-law and my brother-in-law, and they one is a huge Liverpool fan with the EPL, and another is a huge Chelsea fan. And every weekend they just go at each other. And I think it's the greatest thing ever. So I do want him to be a Leaf fan. I think that'd be cool. But if he cheered for someone else, good. Now I get to chirp my son for his entire upbringing.
Steve, I don't want to be that guy, but if he ends up being a Habs fan, you might want to get a DNA test done.
Oh, for sure. No, I definitely will. We got the technology now. Yeah.
So, Steve, we're almost a week into the books. 4 games down for the Leafs. We're sitting at, 3 games down for the Leafs. We're sitting in first place in the North Division. How you feeling?
Pretty good. You know, the first 2 games were, it was just more of the same. Like, but I mean, it's sloppy beginning of the season stuff, right? They never had the lead against Montreal, but they had a big comeback. There was the big fight. You know, everyone seemed to love and hopefully, you know, spur on the team and get 2 quick ones. The second game against Ottawa was terrible. Big bounce back the next night. And then yesterday against the Jets, that second period, that was as complete a period as I've seen them play in a very long time. So the past 2 games, the fact that they were dominant in terms of shooting, but also really crisp defensively, it gave me some hope that, you know, these guys, you know, they might actually be a different group than last year. And would you look at that, Jack Campbell and Freddie Anderson separately had a relatively easy time facing relatively easier shots. Oh my goodness. You know, everyone's goalie controversy and this and that. Man, if you can't defend in front of them, you're not going to win anything. So they got to clean that up first.
Yeah, I agree, Stephen. I mean, I've been a big proponent on my show, which you've been a guest on a number of times with our buddy Chris Clark, and on this show as well, and in all the time I've known Dart Guy, that I love Freddie Anderson. I think he's a really quality goalie, and I mean, I went through this as a Caps fan for years with Braden Holtby. I mean, people questioning him, questioning that whole core of that team, really, until they finally won. And I think the Leafs are in a very, very similar position. Lots of offensive talent. I mean, I look back at Backstrom, Ovechkin, Semin, Green. I see the same type of things with Riley, Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares in that mix as well, which is nice to have. I think that Freddie can win a cup with this team. I think that goaltending is just such a lonely position where it's so easy to pick apart a guy and go, his goals against, look at this. But when a team allows so many high danger chances like the Leafs have over his entire tenure there, I mean, you have to kind of have the perspective to look elsewhere. And I think against Winnipeg, who is a quality team with great weapons, they displayed what they could potentially do on a consistent basis.
And the goalposts are just, you know, not to go there with the goalies, but it's just so not fair for Freddie because Jack Campbell's bar is Michael Hutchinson and Garrett Sparks, right? That's his bar. He's got to be better than them, and he's significantly better than him, so we love him right now. Frederik Andersen's bar is Frederik Andersen at his peak, right? Frederik Andersen's bar is the best he can do, which is pretty darn good. So when he doesn't look that way, you know, all of a sudden we, you know, as a whole fan base, get new toy syndrome. And we go, what about this guy who's in his late 20s and has never started once, ever? And we're like, yeah, for sure. That guy's going to take over for Frederik Andersen. I love Jack Campbell. I think, you know, if Freddie were to be out for a month or something like that, I think he can carry the load. I think he can, you know, be more than adequate. What are we doing here? Like, it's you know, who do you start against Winnipeg? I'm like, guys, the starter is who you start against Winnipeg. Like, you rested him. You gave Aaron Dell, R.I.P. Now he's with the Devils. But, pour one out for Aaron Dell. But, you know, you gave him the night off to get him rest. You know, there's been a saying or a narrative with Freddie Andersen that I've been guilty of too. And it's that he's been outplayed in every playoff series he's been in with the Leafs. Well, he's also had the busier workload in probably all of them except for maybe Columbus last year. I don't remember the numbers. But the Washington series, the 2 Boston ones, I mean, I was at Game 3 in 2018. He pulled that out of his hat. Like, I don't know how on earth he managed to squeeze that one out. So, Freddie, man, put together a few good ones, and you know, let's get everyone off your back.
Absolutely. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I do believe Freddie's goals against average last year in that play-in round against Columbus was just barely over 202. He had a save percentage at around the 930 mark.
I think it was 931. Yeah, he was so quality. He had a shutout.
Goaltending was not our issue in that round, and as much as I love all of my fellow Leaf fans, it can be tiresome sometimes to see how fast, like you said, that new toy syndrome. The amount of people who were after that Ottawa game saying, "Got to give Campbell a chance, let him run with it." I'm like, Marner's got to be traded. Brody looks like garbage. It's like, man, we're game 3 here. Like, let's chill.
You got to chill. And every single player pretty much who we've said needs to have a bounce back game has. Brody has been excellent. Marner has really taken the team on his shoulders since a pretty lackluster game 2. You know who I just wrote off heading into the season? I practically wrote out of the lineup or had him on the third pair. It's Justin Hall. And, man, that guy's been spectacular. That game last night against the Jets that's about as good a game as I've ever seen him play in the NHL. So if they can keep that going, add Mikko Lehtinen to the mix,
yeah,
I'm excited.
Even top to bottom, that game against Winnipeg last night was, for all intents and purposes, one of the most complete, all-around best games I've seen Toronto play in years. Not just the last year and a half, but it's been a while since I've seen them dominate. Let's not beat around the bush here. Winnipeg is a fairly decent team. You got Connor Hellebuck back between the pipes, so I guess maybe a little bit more to Steve. I don't really remember where you are on the analytics thing, but analytics said that expected goals rate, I think, in the second period for the Leafs was 24 goals or something. I don't know how much you could bank on your analytics all the time, but it was unbelievable how well they played. But I wanted to ask you, what did you make of Marner at the end of the game and Boink taking his run and still getting bounced by Marner and the reaction he showed to that?
What did you call the guy who hit Marner?
Boink?
Neil Pionk.
I thought you called him Boink.
I think I might have actually.
Oh my God, that's
Neil Pionk.
That's the sound he made when he bounced off of Marner.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I'm actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I did call him Boink.
That's his name now. Forever.
That's his name forever.
Yeah.
Neil Boink.
Poor guy.
I thought it was poor guy. Nothing. That was gutless what he tried against Marner.
It was. Yeah.
It was at least 8 strokes. I thought it was high. I thought he stuck the leg out. And I'm still getting people on Twitter. He wasn't going for the head. He wasn't, the leg up. Okay, fine. 8 strides, man. He went across the entire ice to, I think it was Tyler Dello, who is now working for his second NHL team. He's working with the Devils. Give Aaron Dell back. Who years ago he wrote something about how lawless the ice is when there's an empty net. Let's say Pionk takes a penalty there. He gets a chunk of Marner, and he gets, what's he going to get, 2 for charging in a game that his team is going to lose anyway? Yeah. I just feel like there needs to be consequences there, but we know that's not going to happen. So what do you got to do? You got to stick up for yourself. And Marner lets him know, hey, Boink, you look stupid on that play there, Boink. And Tavares gets in there and he gets in his face. I didn't have a problem with Mark Scheifele sticking up for his guy. That's fine. But there was too much put into Simmons joining this team, and he's going to beat everyone up for the Leafs, and he gets into a fight in the first game. His job is not to fight all of the Leafs fights. He's there to bring the guys into the fight. Yeah. And we've been waiting for the moment where, especially the kids on this team, and that includes Marner and Nylander and Matthews, we've been waiting for the moment where the kids are going to say enough is enough, and they're going to fight some of their own fights. Now, Marner didn't exactly, drop his gloves, Conor McGregor, haymaker, anybody. He stuck up for himself. Justin Hall, same thing. I mean, he didn't exactly make the roughing minor count, but he stuck up for Freddie, and you can tell that it meant something to Freddie. And I'm sure it meant something to Marner that JT had something to say. So I loved it. And I loved also that Mitch clearly saw it coming. That's a smart player, man. I love it.
Well, for the people that said, it didn't look like he went for his knee, you could almost hear, sweep the leg in the background as he was going for it.
Full Cobra Kai, yeah.
Cobra Kai.
I agree.
That is the effect that a character player like Wayne Simmons brings to a team and to a dressing room. Leaf fans, myself especially on my shows in the past, for years have been calling for grit and toughness and some character guys in the room. We had Clifford come in last year, but he wasn't with the team all year, and I don't think he had the profound effect that everybody was hoping for. You already see a change this year, like you said, with Marner drawing back at guys, and it seems like guys are feeding off of that Wayne Train energy, where they're like, you know what, I've got a little more confidence to fight, stick up for myself, fight my battles here, and I don't want to see Matthews fighting. Don't get me wrong with what I'm about to say here, but I've long said the minute Matthews realizes he's 6'4", and he can just plow his way through a majority of people in the league, he's going to be that much better. And I think, a guy like Simmons being on the bench is just going to go up and down the lineup, and I think you started to see it already.
Well, this is the huge difference between Kyle Clifford and Wayne Simmons. So Brian Burke came on my podcast, and he's like, well, there's no addition. There's no addition because, it's one guy leaving, it's another guy joining. I would disagree in that they're completely different players. And Kyle Clifford, he's going to be on the fourth line with the occasional third line shift. Simmons, like you said, I think he's played with every center off of a certain faceoff. Maybe not Tavares, but he's definitely played with Matthews. He's been on the third. He's been on the fourth. After the power play, he's been all over the place. So he's a different beast in terms of, I guess, being the sheriff. And I don't want to see Matthews fight either. But I don't want to see him be Gretzky taking on Broughton like an idiot. I would like to see him do something like, Crosby. I didn't see Crosby go after George Laraque, but I did see him go after I could probably take an Alex Goligoski, and he fought him early in his career, I think, when he was with the Dallas Stars.
That was Niskanen. That was Matt Niskanen.
Niskanen. Thank you. I thought Goligoski was wrong. So, and they were traded for each other. Weird.
That's right.
I don't want to see him take on Ryan Reeves, but should the mood strike him, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Just don't break your hand.
Well, absolutely. There's got to be a point in time where somebody is giving him a cross-check in front of the net like we saw against Montreal there, where, maybe if he turns around and just catches somebody off guard, drops the gloves and starts feeding them, maybe some of those cross-checks don't become as frequent anymore.
I would love it. And it's like, there is obviously a line. So, like Justin Hall, for example, completely negated a power play last night. I didn't see many people complaining about it. So it's. I think maybe I went a little too far in the you don't need a fighter direction. It's just because I thought these guys would eventually stick up for themselves, and they just never did. And this season, I think it's the perfect mix of they've brought in some new guys, but it's also these young men turning into grown-ups who aren't going to take it anymore.
Yeah, and they are the prime guys that teams will target because they're the best players. And we've said this numerous times, Dark Guy, and Steve, when you've been on my show as well, we've talked about this toughness factor, this missing sandpaper from the Leafs lineup, if you will. It will start with guys like Simmons. But the second that guys like Marner do something like he did against Winnipeg the other night, when a guy's clearly trying to come and knock his block off, and Scheifele gets involved and Matthews starts to push back on guys, it's little moments like that where everybody wants to follow what the star players are doing. And we finally, my fan base got to see it finally when Ovechkin finally won. He was doing things physically, like blocking shots, and he's been fighting his own battles for years anyway. But there's just that grit there where, like, if your star is doing it, and we're not saying, obviously, I don't want Matthews fighting, breaking a hand. I want that guy in the lineup. He's on my fantasy team. I want him scoring goals. I want to see him dangle people. But when you see those high-end guys getting knocked around and they turn around and give a little whack back, even if they do take a penalty, it's one that you'll take, because if the stars are doing it, it forces everybody else on that team to have that same type of engagement level, because now there's no excuse. The guy that's making $11 million just hacked the guy after he got cross-checked 3 times. There's something there.
And the great thing is, they're doing it in game 4, right? They're doing it early. They're setting a precedent. I think Leafs Nation owes Boink a big thank you for waking up the beast. Thank you, Neil Boink.
I just gave you some LFR content there for your next Leafs Jets game.
That's so
if
good.
The next Steve Dangle podcast episode isn't called Neil Boink, I'm going to be offended.
Oh, my God. 9 more games. Neil Boink, he's going to be in 9 more games against the Leafs. Look out.
Let's see. Oh, my.
Well, speaking of which, you're into season 14 of LFR. Yeah. Could you have ever imagined when you started this, 14 years later, you'd be here with the following that you have?
No, good God, no. I didn't. I always thought there was a pretty obvious limit to this. Well, first of all, when I started in 2007, YouTube that's not a career. It was a career for a couple dozen people on the whole planet. And now it's like if you go to any elementary school, I've gotten to speak at a few, they don't want to be movie stars. They want to be YouTubers, right? So it's a career path. 14 years, no, and 140,000 subscribers. I never would have thought that for something as niche as, I know the Leafs are a big team and they're a very, very popular team, but they're one hockey team. I'm talking about the 4th or 5th most popular league in North America. I thought I would have had to change it up, do something a little bit different. And I've obviously evolved and everything, but at the end of the day, I'm still doing a video after every Leaf game, so it's been very tempting to complain over the last 10 months on account of COVID and everything, but with hockey back, it's getting harder. It's getting harder. I'm having a good time.
Steve, I want to dig into your passion and the level you go to in your videos, which is just so much fun. And I mean, without sounding crass, it's almost more entertaining when the Leafs lose, because there is just and I don't say that like I want the Leafs to lose. I don't care. I don't have a quarrel with the Leafs, but there's just an anticipation of, I literally say to my friends, many of whom are Leaf fans, I'm kind of a loner on Capitals Island, I always go, I wonder what Dangle is going to say. And I've been saying that for years. I love your podcast. I've been listening for a decade plus. It's so good. Your videos are hilarious. I think back to some of the ones that are your biggest viewed. Obviously, I don't want to bring this up. I'm sorry, guys. David Ayres was an all-time YouTube classic.
Who is that?
Yeah.
I've never heard that name.
No. Yeah. You screamed it many times at high volume. The Boston losses, what is your throat like? What's your preferred tea? How are you keeping that in shape? You have such passion and it's so much fun to watch.
So let's work on our phrasing there, Ryan. I think, no, it's actually, you know what? I wonder if I'm going to need that nodule surgery at some point when I'm older, because I used to lose my voice all the time. I remember one time when I was 14, I lost it so bad that I was carrying a Magnadoodle around, like to communicate with people. I was writing on it and erasing it. But now I only ever get kind of hoarse if I'm at a loud bar, which haven't been to one of those in a while. But for the videos. Like, nope, I'm good to go. And hey, for all you kids out there, if you need some vocal cord advice for keeping that stuff in shape, coconut water, and if you can, blend coconut oil into your coffee. It's actually not that bad. You got to drink it hot. If it gets cold, it's kind of gross. But if you drink it hot, really good. Heal that up right away. If you have a sore throat, you're welcome. Also, go get a test.
I've lost my voice multiple times, every single time after either a Leafs game or a Bills game.
Congrats, by the way.
Not being able to talk.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? I do want to mention something with David Ayres. So I'm wearing my Easter Seals hat. And every year I play in the Eric Lindros Celebrity Hockey Classic in support of Easter Seals, charity that helps out kids with physical disabilities. I messaged Sarah Ayres, David Ayres' wife, because he doesn't have Twitter and all that. And I was like, first of all, sorry for screaming about your husband. Second of all, would you possibly help me, do some fundraising for Easter Seals? And all you got to do is join my team this year. Obviously, we didn't play. It was just the fundraising part. But just lend the David Ayres name to the fundraising cause. And that's all he really had to do. $2,500, which is that's most of a motorized wheelchair that he raised. Just by simply lending his name. So I'm pretty upset about that game, but it wasn't really his fault. And I do appreciate what he did. It's an amazing story, and it turns out he's an amazing guy too. So if it was going to happen against any team, I'm bummed it was against the Leafs. But if it was going to happen for any person, I'm glad it was David Ayres.
Yeah, it worked out well for him, and he did the big media tour, and he seems like a fantastic guy. And Steve, I'm glad you brought up Easter Seals. I was going to ask you about this. I know that raising money for this charity is extremely personal to you, and you've been doing a great job with it over a number of years now. Just talk a bit about your experience with the charity and why it's so important to you personally.
For sure. Well, my family benefited from Easter Seals when I was younger. My sister has autism and cerebral palsy, and needed help with AFOs, those ankle braces, and wheelchair. She doesn't have a motorized one. She has just a push one. And we also got to go to the Easter Seal summer camps. So, that was both my parents, my sister, and me. And, that was very rare, and it's not like we were ever able to really go on vacation. I didn't go on my first plane until I was 21, working with Nike. So, Easter Seals was a big help for us and a fun escape. Then a few years ago, Ken Reed from Sportsnet said, "Hey, you want to join my charity hockey team?" And I go, "Ken, I've never played." He goes, "Well, it's in support of Easter Seals." And I go, "Ooh." And he goes, "It's in support of Easter Seals." I go, "Well, I'm thinking about it, because I do love Easter Seals, but Ken, I've never played." And he goes, "So?" Which I usually get never? Can you stop or whatever? And he was just like, "So? You probably won't even be our worst player," which was a lie. I was. But there were a few other guys who were near my skill level anyway. And, because of that, I've been in the tournament, I think 4 years now, helped raise, I don't even know, probably at least $150,000. As a tournament, we've raised, a couple million over that time. And now I can stop on both sides and sort of do something that looks like a crossover, sort of.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
I was going to ask how the skating was coming along, because a couple people, when they saw you were coming on the show, they said, "Ask Steve if he can skate yet."
Well, I was just learning, and they friggin' shut down all the arenas, and the world stopped. So that was a bit of a bummer, and I keep waiting for it to get cold enough that I can hit a pond or something, just teasing me. But I'm definitely gonna have to relearn, I guess, when this is all done, because I want to teach my son to skate. I had skating lessons for one winter, I think, when I was 5 or something, and then for a variety of reasons that I get into in the book, it just was never meant to be my little hockey journey. I'm not gonna force my son to, you got to get up at 5, kid. Eat your orange slices and shut up. Like I'm not gonna put him through that, but I would like him to have the option, if that makes sense. And like my parents did offer to get me into hockey when I was 10, and I said no because I knew I wasn't going to be playing with any of my friends because all my friends played like rep. My friends grew up playing with Wayne Simmons because we were from roughly the same neighborhood. It was Wayne Simmons, and the other big guy in our neighborhood at the time was Rob Quitt, who he never ended up making the NHL, but he had a cup of coffee in the A, played in the E, played in Europe, and he was Ryan Ellis's defense partner with the Windsor Spitfires. So, I would have got demolished by all that.
Well, Steve, I got to tell you, so maybe not to swing it back to the Leafs here,
Sure.
but before I do got to say that next year when the Easter Seals is coming out, I'm pretty sure I'm a tender. So next year you're looking for a tender for the team. You give me a call. I'll strap them on for Easter Seals and help you guys out. It'd be my honor. So.
Oh baby, let's get her going, man. Let's get her going. You, Ryan, Neil Boink.
Yeah, Neil Boink has to
Neil
play.
Boink.
I'll pour Neil's water.
Maybe I can somehow get a hold of Thornton there and say, listen, if he's missing his bearded buddy Burns in San Jose, I could fill the role. So.
Oh, shout out to Jeremy Rupke, aka How To Hockey. He's been making masks, and he's got a Brent Burns one.
I love it.
I wore it to the store today, and I always forget I'm wearing it. The look they give you. I wore it to before the shutdown and everything. I wore it to get my hair cut. Girl cutting my hair is like, oh, that's so funny. And after about 20 minutes, she's like, all right, now it's weird.
Yeah, take it off.
Yeah, it's funny at first, and then to just have a conversation with, my mouth is roughly where his mouth is, and it's weird, man.
So we had mentioned a couple times, we poured one out, RIP to Aaron Dell. What were your thoughts on seeing Spezza on waivers the other day?
I was surprised, but I thought about it for a few minutes, and it made a lot of sense. That story came out where Spezza and his agent got the word out. Listen, my client's going to retire. I'm glad no one tried to call their bluff, but I was sort of like, God, I love Jason Spezza. He's a Leaf. Like I was like, what is going to happen if the Sens claim him? Right? Like that's got to be difficult for him. And I could actually see a situation where he's like, well, it is Ottawa. But he's in pursuit of the Stanley Cup. I don't think they're going to do it this year. It was really cool to see him do that. But also, like, I think people are like, oh, the Leafs did Jason Spezza so dirty. I'm willing to believe that the Leafs and Spezza were well aware this was a possibility, and they were in on it. And Dubas said, listen, the time has come. We're going to do this. Cross our fingers, hope it works. And luckily it did. And now look at all the flexibility he's given the Leafs. They can send them down on non-game days and save, $85 or whatever it is against the cap. I'm too dumb for the math. But like it's something.
It's about right, yeah.
Were you surprised that, say a team like Vancouver or, well, maybe not Vancouver because I know they're money issues there too, but another team didn't claim him just to stir the pot. Like, were you thinking that was a possibility? I was shocked that somebody didn't do it just to, throw a wrench into the Leafs' plans.
That's why I brought the Sens, because it's not just that Spezza has a history there. He obviously wants to be close to home. There could be an argument made that, the Sens are close-ish to home, or at very least it's Ontario. And it would just screw with the Leafs. Like, so no, he's not going to come to our team, but you're telling me I can just make our opponent's fourth-line center retire? Like, you're telling me that doesn't put a dent into their plans? I guess that's just, maybe it's like a gentlemanly thing. Kyle Dubas, calls up Pierre Dorian and goes, don't you freaking dare. Or something like that. I don't know. definitely thought it was a possibility. I'm surprised teams let the Leafs get away with it, but I'm sure Dubas had some sort of laundry list calling up guys and goes, okay, so if you don't let us do this, here's the list of ways in which we will make your life miserable. So luckily they got away with it.
It's one of those things where I think maybe if we weren't in the global situation we were in financially, that maybe somebody would have entertained it. But also I think too that if you're the other team claiming him and you're going, oh, this is really going to mess with the Leafs, like it, with all due respect to Jason Spezza, who was a great player when he was in his prime, that line with Heatley and Alfredson was unbelievable. He's a really quality player. He's not anymore. And so if your whole thing was, oh boy, can we really give one to the Leafs here by claiming this guy? Like, you still have Matthews, Tavares, Kerfoot, like, what, the Leafs are suddenly hurting for center depth. Thornton, pretty good player still. So I think that probably factored into it. And off of Jason Spezza, I'd love to springboard over to this story, Steve, and I know you have opinions about this. I remember when Mike Babcock was fired and the podcast you guys did after this. I'm sure you are aware, based on your reaction, of the story that was published in The Athletic this week. Catching up with old Babs and seeing how he's doing, and apparently his feelings are really hurt from those comments a couple years ago from Johan Franzen, and Mike's a good guy, and his feelings were really, really hurt with what old Johan said about him. I would love your opinion on this. It seems like he's trying to do this PR tour. He's joining NBC, kind of doing what Torts did a couple years ago, trying to, shine his image up. I had a real problem with the stance he took in the article. I wasn't the one interviewing him, and I've never met Mike Babcock. I don't know what he's like as a person. He could be a nice guy. But based on everything we've heard, when he gets behind an NHL hockey bench, he can be a pretty horrible person. What were your thoughts on this article? Because I know when he was fired, you had a lot to say about him.
Yeah, well, and like it's not just guys like Mike Commodore who completely hate Mike Babcock. Like I've spoken to guys who, they played in the NHL, they played for Babcock, and I didn't even know these guys were capable of using the word hate, and they hate this guy. So what we talked about on the show that I regret now a little bit recently is the Mitch Marner thing. And so we were talking about him returning to NBC. Not returning to NBC, getting his analyst job with NBC, and people talking about it. And I'm like, okay, I don't agree with what he did. And I thought it was bad. Was it so bad that he should never coach in the NHL again? And the answer we came away with was no, probably not. But teams are going to have to think very hard before giving him that opportunity. However, so today he was explaining his side of the Marner and Bozak thing and everything. And I feel like just because it's Toronto, that's the number one story. The Franzen one, that guy went to a center for veterans with PTSD. Are you joking? Are you kidding? Like, what did he put this poor guy through? So Franzen is probably the worst one. Yeah. I don't know what players would be excited to play for this coach ever again.
It's hard.
The thing about today that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was he, admitted he was wrong and said he made a mistake with the Marner situation, but then he tried to twist it and say, but it really wasn't my fault. Like, listen, if you're going to own up to it, if you're going to say I made a mistake, then just say I made a goddamn mistake and don't add the but to it. Like, own your stuff and leave it at that. Don't say, yeah, I made a mistake, but...
Well, and something ignorant that he said, I noticed that he sort of on the sly inserted the word private.
Yes.
It was supposed to be a private conversation.
Yeah.
Do you know what team you were coach of?
Nothing's private there.
Private. Yeah. Get out of here. How did you not think that would get out eventually? I mean, he got away with it for a few years. You know,
Yeah.
were it not for Ian Tulloch, we would have never known. If I remember correctly, Terry Kosha put that story out there. It got a little bit of traction, but it was just mystery player. And then Ian Tulloch, wham, throws Mitch Marner on that, and the explosion.
Yeah.
I don't know if his reputation's ever going to recover from that, and it also sounds like his reputation was garbage before that.
Well,
I don't
think. Sorry, Ryan.
No, go ahead, buddy.
I've talked to, I want to say, about a dozen former players of Mike's, multiple different scenarios, and I was shocked, as you may have been, to hear the exact same thing. Not one of those at least dozen players said, you know what, Mike's misunderstood or he's not that bad. Every single one of them said he's an a-hole. I hated playing for him. And for me, that's a telling sign. Like, I don't want to sit here and bash the guy that I've never met that, you know, has a pretty decent resume and a lot of hockey knowledge behind him. But it's like you said, nobody, I have yet to find one player who used to play for him who says, he's a good guy.
A big one for me was Jeff O'Neill's tirade after it all happened, when he just over and over again goes, bad guy. And so made a little observation over the past couple of years. You know, I haven't really had the opportunity to speak to many NHL players one-on-one until recently. And that is like their bad guy is like the worst thing you could possibly call somebody in NHL circles. It's like an asshole, a total boink, a total, you know, whatever. You can call them every name in the book, but bad guy, oh, they mean it. And when I heard Jeff scream it over and over again, and they all say bad guy, I was like, this guy's never coaching again. And I think, was that before the Marner story broke? I can't. Or was that might have been the day that it broke or the day after or something like that. But bad guy, that's something to look for. If you hear someone in a hockey circle call someone a bad guy, ooh, it's over for them.
Well, and O was, you know, kind of trumpeting that for a little while right before that broke. And of course, when the firing occurred. And you're right, Steve. I mean, I've been lucky. I've had two cousins play in the NHL. One of them still coaching. One of them is an assistant GM. And, you know, I've picked up lots of stories over the years from different people that they know. And, yeah, you don't hear very many quality things about the guy. You can't deny the resume, sure. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you what really bothered me about the article was, you know, Mike really got on board with the whole Bell Let's Talk thing. He was one of like their big ambassadors. In the story, he was quoted as saying when the Franzen situation got brought up, which again, by all accounts is horrible. Henrik Zetterberg, one of the greatest Red Wings of all time, said that it was awful what he witnessed happen to Johan Franzen. Henrik Zetterberg, pretty quiet guy, doesn't offer a lot of opinions. And Babcock's in this story going, can you imagine how much that hurt my feelings when he said that I did X, Y, and Z, me, who does all this mental health work? I was like, Mike, you're really missing the boat here.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he is really passionate about mental health, and I bet you he probably is. He has like a really personal connection to it, and that's fine.
People are complicated. Yeah.
But to bring that up and essentially use his platforming on mental health as an excuse is what I read it as, to treat another person this way. I get it, man. We all get it. Sports are intense. It's a high-intensity business. People are going to get yelled at. My cousins that played both got yelled at. I got yelled at playing hockey. We get it. But there is a threshold here. And it really pissed me off to read him saying, oh, it really hurt my feelings, me that does all this great mental health work. That was the part that really ticked me off.
Good deeds are not coupons for bad deeds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just because you did, like, okay, cool, you did a good thing by doing that. it doesn't excuse your behavior in situation X, Y, and Z. And it really, unfortunately, it makes a lot of the stuff he's done, the good stuff, ring really hollow.
Definitely. No such thing as a get out of free card, get out of jail free card. So, Steve, I want to thank you much for your time tonight. I don't want to keep you from your beautiful family any longer than we already have. It's becoming a staple on the Smoke Show here that we go over our time with every single guest. So,
wow. I didn't even
much. One quick question. Ice surfing, you're the host of it. Is it when can we see that? Expect to see that coming back?
Next season, I hope.
Next season,
Really?
Yeah. Well, I have not. I've been to the Hockey Night studio once since March 11th, and that was to shoot the "It's On" commercial that you've all seen 20,000 times.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And the other Sportsnet studio. No, I haven't. Or no, that's the Hockey Night studio. Sorry, I've been to the Sportsnet studio once. The Hockey Night studio, I haven't been back to.
Well, it is a crazy time, crazy world we're living in. So, all the respect to Sportsnet for trying to keep everybody safe and reduce the amount of people they're having in the studio there. So, understandable. We know you will be back with it as soon as all this craziness starts to loosen up a little bit again. Unless you've been living under a rock, Steve put out a book last year. This team's ruining my life, but I still love him. It's a great read about his fandom and his journey from the start to where he is now. So, Steve, thank you so much. Love having, and we look forward to having you back sometime soon.
Boink.
Boink. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Dangle.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Should
I just leave?
Well, you're still here.
All right, guys. I appreciate it very much. We'll see you.
All right, on. Have a great day.
There he is, the incomparable Steve Dangle. I got to say, one of my favorite people in the game to talk to. And Steve's one of those guys, much like yourself and myself as well. Dark guy that really started from the bottom and built up a fan base, and has done a great job. There are people that really sometimes disregard Dangle, and I don't get it. He's a fun guy. We need more people like that covering the game. He's just fun. He's just a fun dude, and I've interviewed him probably 10 times now. He's been on my show, numerous times with our friend Chris Clark, and Clarkey was the one who gave him his start at Leafs TV.
Yeah.
It's a small world, right? And the guy just has time for everybody. He's been a guest on so many shows. People want to reach out to him because he's fun. He's obviously a really good dude. And 3, he's just very generous with his time. Like if a student running a podcast that no one's ever heard of asked him to be a guest, he'd probably do it. He's that quality of a dude. He just loves talking about hockey, and it's infectious.
Absolutely. What he's been able to build for himself, the way he had, as he mentioned, he transitioned and morphed with from day one to where he is today to ending up on Sportsnet as an analyst. I mean, you got to give the guy the respect for the hustle and the commitment and all the work that he's put in. But so, I wanted to make very sure that, I never try to bring any parallels between, his rise to where he is and the Dark Guy's story, because a lot of people like to compare it, and I say it's not even close. You look at everything he's done. He's worked his tail off to get there, and while I don't discount my own work, mine started with a right place at the right time, where he started in on the ground level and worked his way all the way up. That's why it bothers me a little bit when I still see to this day, him catch some flack on social media. There was one actually on our post about him coming on as a guest that said you couldn't pay me enough to listen to him, and that kind of ignorance will always rub me the wrong way, because I know this person has probably never met Steve, never had a chance to see how generous he is, or even if he did have the chance, he wouldn't have given him the chance because they're so narrow-minded. Steve and I, when this all happened for me, he wanted me on his show right away, even though some people were telling him not to have me. He joined me out at a Toronto Rock game. We went out, painted the town blue afterwards in downtown Toronto. And I just got to know him, and he's a solid years guy, and doesn't get enough credit where he's due. So awesome having him on.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like, it's fine if that individual doesn't like listening to Dangle. There are lots of sports personalities and entertainment personalities that I don't personally like either. I don't, feel the need to go on a post and voice it. I mean, fine, you don't like listening to Dangle, don't listen. That's fine. I personally think he's a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun watching his videos for 14 seasons. Yeah, I'm not even a Leaf fan, and I enjoy it. His podcast's fantastic, too. Check it out as well, the Steve Dangle podcast. It's so good with Jesse Blake and Adam Wilde. Like, those guys, they just love what they do, and they're fun. And if you don't like it, I guess you just don't like fun.
Yeah, 100%. And when I saw the advertisements for 14th season of LFR, I'm like, is that 14 years already? It started to make me feel old here, but kudos to him and everything he's been able to carve out. But a lot of topics we wanted to touch on. We'll try and do maybe like a speed round here before we wrap up. There was a lot of stuff in the NHL we wanted to touch on this episode. I'm going to kick it off on one that I really wanted to touch on a little bit. The respect to a player that, in my opinion, they've earned. At what point in time does that have to become a factor over the almighty dollar when you're setting a lineup for your team? So we saw in the last week Keith Yandle all over sports media with thoughts that the Florida Panthers were going to make him a healthy scratch and ruin his Iron Man streak that he was in the midst of. You look back to Spezza's first game in Toronto and being put in the press box. Yandle responded in a big way with, 2 goals after all the talk of him being sad. My question here, and what I'm kind of getting at is, at what point in time do you have to give the guy that's bleeding for your team year after year the benefit of the doubt when it comes down to setting your lineup when there's a record on the line, or an Iron Man streak on the line, or a point streak on the line? Like, at what point in time do we take that into consideration and show some respect to the players?
So I'll start by saying this. I am very confused about what the Florida Panthers were up to, because I still think that Keith Yandle can play at a very high level. Is he the best defensive player? No, but back there he motors along. He's a great power play quarterback still. He's been doing it for years in Arizona, then the Rangers, now Florida. I believe that's all of his teams. Like, this guy can play the game still. He's still a very effective player. And with Florida, part of the confusion for me as well is, who exactly do they have that's coming up that's pushing him out of the lineup? Now, allegedly, the story was that potentially the coaching staff led by Joel Quenneville didn't see him as part of their long-term plan. They want to move on from him. That's all fine, but I would still be playing him, because if the goal is to trade him, wouldn't you want to showcase him to other teams and go, look at Keith Yandle, boy, he can still play, and he did that the other night. I think, like you said, this all comes down to money. I'll say this. I don't think that teams or organizations, or coaches certainly, that write lineup cards should feel pressured to put a player in because of a long-standing Ironman streak or some kind of record. If a coach legitimately believes that a player, be it a guy like a Jason Spezza or a Keith Yandle, if the coach can legitimately tell me as a reporter and a fan after the game, I believe not having him in the lineup and having player X in the lineup instead gave us the best chance to win, then I will accept that, no matter who the player is. Everybody gets old. It's the way of the world. But he is still good enough, absolutely, to be in that Florida Panthers lineup. And it's a joke. Really what they're doing is he has a full no-move clause. So he would have to waive his clause to be able to be sent down without potentially being claimed off waivers or any cap implications. And he would have to accept a trade. And so the tactic was, oh, well, we'll healthy scratch him and make him waive his clause. To me, all this is, and this is a larger issue we could dig into some other time because we just don't have time. The larger issue here is that organizations like the Florida Panthers still exist. I do not believe that the Florida Panthers should be an NHL team. I think their ownership is cheap. I think that their fan base is basically non-existent and they don't make enough money to justify being in this league. And I think that this was a salary dump move that the owners want to pull off. Who's their ownership? Vinny Viola, and he's got a partner as well. And I think they only own 70% of the team. I could be wrong. But I think that it's a salary dump. We know teams are losing money, but this guy is a quality player still. And to do something like this, where you go, well, hey, you guys gave him the no move clause. Like, that's not Keith Yandle's fault. And to go, oh, well, we'll just healthy scratch you then.
Yeah, I'm gonna sound like a little bit of a fanboy here, but I understand the business side of things, and winning games is money, and you know,
yeah.
the majority of the owners are in it for only money. I think I'd be hard pressed to find that many that are there because they truly want to win a cup.
You're probably right.
The way I see it is, Alex Ovechkin plays long enough to break Wayne Gretzky's goal scoring record. Let's say this happens. And Wayne Gretzky wakes up at 73 years old and says, you know what? I only need one goal to take my record back. I'm signing him. I'm putting him on the ice, and I'm letting him score that goal.
That's a little far. That's a little far.
I'm being overly dramatic to prove a point.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you have to put the bottom dollar aside. Put your BS tactics of trying to get a guy to waive his no movement clause and show the player the respect he's deserved and earned to chase that record, to keep that streak alive. And if you need to make a trade because you don't think he fits into your team, have that conversation with him. And I'm sure you could keep him in the lineup, because there's going to be a couple teams out there that would take a Keith Yandle in their lineup right now.
I agree. And I agree with you to the extent that if the situation is right, you should give the player the respect they deserve. I mean, if we're talking about Keith Yandle at 42 or something like that, and the wheels are falling off, like he's just not effective anymore, maybe then it's like, okay, we need to move on from the guy, whatever. But in a situation where he can quite clearly still play and offer an NHL team, not an AHL team, an NHL team, quality minutes, especially on the power play, I just think that it's a measure they're trying to do to save money for a team that just doesn't make money and for some reason still exists. I think that, yeah, it was disrespectful. And let's be honest here, he had a no-move clause. He could have turned around a couple years ago, because it's like the Florida Panthers have been unreal. He could have turned around and said, get me out of this dumpster fire and trade me right now. He could have went the other way, but he didn't. He wants to be a part of that group with Barkov and Huberdeau and Borgstrom and some of the young guys they have coming and be there. And I agree that I thought that in this situation, it was disrespectful.
I know one of the topics that kind of had you fired up a little bit leading into this through this first week of NHL hockey. There was two of them. Some of them had to do with the officiating. The other was hits from behind. So I'm going to let you go whichever way you want with this. Which one you want to go with?
Well, okay. I mean, they tie into each other. I mean, the hitting from behind. Really what it is, and the two examples are plays that, were penalized. I mean, the first one, obviously, everybody saw Noah Hannafin kill Kyle Connor from behind the other night in the Jets Flames game. Like, it's just such a gutless play. And it happened again. Who was it? It was Gallagher on Darnell Nurse. I mean, quite clearly from behind, it's the play in sports, in pro sports, that I absolutely hate the most. I cannot stand watching guys get labeled on the numbers head first into the end wall. It makes me cringe every single time, no matter who it is. It's just such a gutless play because, especially in the Connor one, Nurse at least was a little aware that Gallagher was there. Like, Hanifin just clocked Connor, a quality player, from behind. I mean, I don't want to sound over dramatic here on my end. Like, someone is going to die on the ice someday, or God forbid, and we've seen it at other levels, get paralyzed. And I don't want to see that, and you don't want to see it, and nobody should want to see it. I just feel that play should be an automatic 5-game suspension. And people are going to say, well, sometimes guys turn and whatever. Well, let the NHL Department of Player Safety, who, they're poor at their job. I know they're bad at their jobs. So I think hockey fans are all on the same page there. Let them determine that then. But, like, God almighty, the hits from behind, even early in the season, are a joke. And people go, you can't suspend people for 5 games and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, you can. I mean, drunk driving laws have gotten more strict over the years for good reason. They're a deterrent. And if guys start getting suspended for this gutless play, I hated that hit on Kyle Connor. I hated it. I think Noah Hanifin's a really good player. I'd love to have him on my team. He's a quality player. I hated that hit. And I think he should have been suspended for it. And I think Brendan Gallagher should be suspended for hitting Nurse. Well, they didn't get hurt and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that matters. Drunk drivers don't get arrested and sent to jail even though they didn't kill anybody, thank God. But sometimes they do.
Well, I can liken it to this. So what you're saying is, honestly, maybe this is a topic for a different show, a different day, but if I was in politics, I could stop drunk driving right now. I could stop it. How? You put an interlock system in every vehicle. You mandate that every auto manufacturer has to put an interlock system in every car they sell. You pretty much end the problem. And that's kind of what you're saying with, put the automatic suspension in. Because in a lot of cases, I agree with you, a lot of times these situations are avoidable. These hits from behind are avoidable. And
of course they are.
Sometimes it's like, what can I get away with? And maybe I'm going to get away with this one. Maybe I'm not. And yeah, I agree with you. Maybe that automatic suspension would, help teach people to ease up on the play a little bit.
Just that hit from behind, man, when a guy gets somebody in the back and he launches head first toward the boards, anywhere on the ice, but particularly the end wall there, it makes you sick. Like, I'm just praying we don't hit a day where we see somebody get seriously hurt or God forbid, suffer some terrible spinal injury. Oh, man, I don't want to see that. And they could be doing something to deter this a little more.
No, I agree. And on that note, I'm going to use that to segue into a very horrible pun. We've hit the end wall of episode 7 of this
yes.
show. But before we sign off, I promised you guys and girls the details on how you can win yourself one of these beauty chairs from Best Seat in the House. So what's going to happen is tomorrow at noon, there is going to be a post that is going to go live on the Smokeshow social media channel. So Instagram, Twitter. There's going to be a post up announcing the contest. What you're going to have to do is make sure you are following the Smokeshow social media accounts. You're going to need to make sure you are following Best Seat in the House social accounts, and you need to tag 3 of your friends. Yep, everybody knows we're simply doing this to get more followers and spread the word out there, but that's the way it's going to be.
That's the business.
Follow both accounts, tag 3 of your buddies that would love to have that chair, that would probably love to enter the contest. And I think we're going to let it run for a week or two and before we announce a winner, but that'll be live tomorrow at noon. So if you have a chance to win one of those chairs, that's how. Want to huge thank you to Steve Dangle, Steve Dangle Podcast, LFR, Ice Surfing, author of This Team is Ruining My Life, for his generosity with his time tonight. He was a fantastic guest. Ryan, thank you so much for being my co-host. Huge thank you to the FHN Network, as always, for having us on their network. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire, so it's a good combo. And once again, thank you to Dry County for allowing us to use their fantastic music for the opening. And to all you crazy Leaf fans, 3-1, first place in the North Division. Nobody cares how the Caps are doing. And until next week, where there's smoke, there's
fire.
Boink.
Oh. Oh. All done there, fellas?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good job.